Welcome back to the Life of Bam Margera. It's been a minute, guys. Today, I'm talking about CKY3, Brandon Novak's Dreamseller, and Mike V's greatest hits. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I forgot to talk about 411's issue 35, A Day in the Life with Bam Margera.
Today, I'm gonna make everybody's day hell.
If you guys haven't noticed yet, Bam doesn't treat his parents too kindly in front of the camera. Despite Phil and April's supportive attitudes, Bam always reinforces that he is in control as top dog.
You're ruining it.
No, first, I'm sorry, but you always tell me I'm ruining it, but you never help me around here, not even a little bit.
Because a day in the life doesn't involve helping mom.
Wait, I know. Well, we know that.
Shenanigans began and skating ensued.
What's that?
We're making this video and it just looks cool when we're moving.
No problem.
Alright, cool.
And Bam warming up and skating at FDR. Alright guys, now let's jump back to 2001.
2001 was looking to be an extraordinary year for Bam. His wealth and popularity skyrocketed with the help of Jackass the TV series, and of course in combination with his determination with skating. During this period, I've noticed that Bam begins to change the way he presents himself. In the first volume of Jackass, we saw Bam wearing a $7 blazer. However, around this time, Bam began to wear the likes of top hats, sunglasses, scarves, black clothing, and the occasional eyeshadow. According to Jen Revelle, Bam's ex-girlfriend we'll talk about much later, she coined the term as rock flare. This look can be seen on Bam's website, bammargera.com, with only one M. The Wayback Machine has us covered with a whole rabbit hole of CKY and Jackass content, including URLs for Ryan Dunn, CKY, Rake, Yohn, Ville Margera, and much more. Bam's website would feature emo photos of himself while utilizing a dark color palette. Located on the right, we have different links featuring bios, accessories, stills, and Bam's usual unkept schedule. And here is where we're also exposed to Bam's use of the Heartagram. Alright, so the Heartagram can be seen on Bam throughout the filming of Jackass the TV series, and it also becomes much more apparent in CKY3. So what is it? Well, Bam idolized Valo. He was the frontman of a Finnish goth band called HIM, H-I-M with capital letters. Quoting Valo's 2010 book, Bam says that he originally got into HIM after reading Ville's comments on the songs Razorblade Romance on the band's website. The band started to interest him, and it was because of him that Bam became addicted to using the internet. Bam came to see a couple of our gigs in Europe, but at first we didn't know anything about the guy, Ville says. In London we were introduced to each other, and after that we had hung out together more than once. A cool, easygoing guy, not at all stuck up, although he does drink a lot of booze. I want to give a huge shout out to Jackass Watcher over on Discord for providing me this particular source. It actually really helped a lot. He is currently managing a Jackass fan Discord for old Jackass media. If any of you guys are interested, the link will be in the description. It's really good, a bunch of good guys there, so check it out. Let's go back to talking about the Heartagram. So the Heartagram was designed by Ville in 1996 at the age of 20. Ville described the design in a form of a poem, as he said it was a combination of heart and pentagram, the soft and the had, the male and the female, the yin and the yang, which for me is important. I was in my tiny rented flat and I was waiting for my friends to come over with beer so we could celebrate me turning into a man. I was drawing stuff for no particular reason, just doodling. I was just trying to figure out something cool, so basically I was drawing for hours, waiting for the beer to arrive, and then I just got it. I had this sort of hexagram, and then suddenly I had this very cool image on the page before me. I wasn't thinking of it consciously, but it was the combination of heart and pentagram. It's safe to say that Bam adored the Heartagram design. Some could even say he was borderline obsessed with both that and Valo himself, and he even got it tattooed. Valo actually responded to Bam having a tattoo, and here's what his response was. Bam was worried that I would feel that he had stolen my tattoos. Valo laughed. But the thing is that a tattoo isn't mine or but ours. It's not a question of stealing but of sharing. If someone wants to get the same tattoo that I have, that's okay. After all, Bam is a good guy. He's just a huge fan of the band. Of course he's insane, but in a good way. So as I said, Bam was so borderline obsessed with him and Valo that they ended up drinking together, and one night Bam said that if Ville wanted his girlfriend Jen and get intimate with her, that would be very much okay, because anyone that actually would turn down sex from Valo is an idiot. Digging on the Wayback Machine, I was able to find this interview with Bam and Chris Aspate. And in the interview, Bam held skateboarding strongly and had no plans on giving it up, despite Jackass taking up much of his time. I kinda found it funny how Hoof asked if Bam was gonna pull some Jason Lee type shit, like sort of implying that he was just gonna abandon skateboarding for TV media. There's a few other things I found interesting, like Bam mentions the purchase of a $400,000 home for his family in Glen Mills, 27 miles west of Philly. Bam mentioned it in the interview that after he visited New York, he met up with the singer of Pink at a party, and she was ecstatic, and apparently she used to skate, and the two used to skate at Cheapskates back in the day. Bam also mentions that he gets bombarded with phone calls and emails, and he actively tries to answer and get back to them when he can. And I'm actually going to quote Bam from the interview in this, where he says, "I'm not writing back, and meanwhile I'm trying to answer 50 letters and I suck at typing, so it's frustrating. It's like they think I'm not doing anything on my end. Meanwhile I hear of IMs of people I don't know. One Sunday, I took 7 hours of my day to write some people back through regular mail. I was going to Finland or some shit the next day, so I wrote as many letters as I could saying sorry for the short note, but I'm going away and blah blah blah. Then I threw in some pictures and stickers, and some fucking wrote back, pissed, because I didn't write her a legit note, and I'm a money-hungry prick and so on. I was bummed, man. I should tell that bitch to write to Eminem and wait for a fucking response." Bam also expands on his high school years in the interview, mentioning how people who never talked to him now wanted his fame and wanted to be a part of his life. It seemed like Bam was oddly specific with his narrative and calling somebody out in response. He also calls out two of his teachers from East High School by name. Both mentioned that skateboarding would be just a fad. Bam's response was this: "I wish I could let them know that quitting school was the best move I ever made. If I would have stayed, I would have been 2 years behind with all the work I've done so far. No one gives a shit about a high school diploma. And if Mr. P and Mr. N combine their salaries times that by 5, it still wouldn't equal what I made, so fuck you both." Not the most mature on Bam's end, but Bam did give a shout out to one of the cooler teachers at the school. And you also have to remember, dude, Bam was in the early 20s at this point, so this anti-education vibe, it seems understandable to me, even when you consider, skateboarding culture back then. I got another one of Bam's responses that I want to quote. "All they want you to do is go to college. It's so boring. Everyone goes to college and gets an A. Big deal. I know grandparents get so amped on telling people all that. Yeah, my granddaughter goes to college and gets A's. Who cares, lady? My dad let me do whatever I want, and skating came before school. When your parents don't let you do anything and always ground you, it's obvious that when you go off to college, you're going to drink and do drugs till the fucking sun comes up because that's your first taste of freedom. And I had freedom from the beginning. So I had no reasons to do drugs and be bitter and say my parents are dicks. That's all I've ever heard. It's bullshit, Hoof. Parents need to open their eyes every once in a while, for fuck's sake." So on August 19th, 2001, Bam would host an unofficial X Games and CKY3 premiere party at the Trocadero Theater in downtown Philly. The party would feature a viewing of the film. In addition, we would get performances by him, CKY, and the hardcore punk band Raab. The event had an alleged attendance of 1,300, and this would also be him's first US performance that Bam paid out of pocket for, including first-class tickets for the band. I also want to mention to you guys that CKY3's release date on Wikipedia is labeled as February 12th, 2001. No. Alright, I seriously felt confused by this for a very long time, but after doing some thinking, I realized that the Wikipedia is wrong, so let me explain. So first off, if you click the source on Wikipedia, it takes you to the site about the Trocadero Theater party that happened on August 19th, which was the debut of the film, so there's no way that it came out in February 2001. Also, one of the scenes from CKY3, Mike Vallely versus 4 random jocks, which we will talk about later, had a court record that was time-stamping the event as June of 2001, as well as the release date for the film being in February of 2002. So it wouldn't make any sense that the movie came out in February 2001, and I don't know where this mistake came about, but I'm pretty sure that's wrong and that the actual premiere was August 19th, and the release date was more likely February of 2002. CKY3 made a tribute to the death of both Keenan Milton and Sean Miller. Sean Miller passed away in a car accident in 1995, and Keenan Milton passed away on July 5th, 2001 during an Independence Day party, where he accidentally drowned. CKY3 displays that sudden shift of success in Bam's life, within moments into the film where we see the whole crowd chant CKY live at Warped Tour 2000. The introduction for CKY3 features a disclaimer by Deco, and also he gets smacked a few times, and that's when he changes his tone and changes his impression.
Yes, so pay attention and don't do this at home, because if you do, you'll pay the consequences.
And it's very funny.
That's right.
The intro track was a Demu track, Puritania? Puritania. Dude, I haven't listened to Demu since high school, so I have no idea how to pronounce this, but just guys, it came off of their 5th studio album, and it also came out March of 2001, so it makes sense why Bam used that track, but moving on.
CKY3's biggest addition was the debut of Bam's longtime friend / ex-pro skateboarder, Brandon Novak. Novak and Bam met each other at Cheapskates in 1988. A Baltimore native, he developed a talent for skateboarding around the age of 7, and at age 14, his skateboarding caught the attention of Tony Hawk, and Novak became the first pro skater to be sponsored by Gatorade. This also earned him a spot working on the Pal Peralta team. He was also featured on Pal Peralta's 1992 Chaos. Following this, Bam saw Novak less and less, until finally losing contact with him. Potentially, this could be due to Novak's addiction struggles. In his late teens, Novak developed an addiction to heroin. In 2008, Novak published his memoir, Dreamseller. With the help of Joe Franz, Novak mentions his graphic stories of his attempts to get high and losing the trust of his family, as he lived in a constant state of denial from all accountability of his actions. It's a really great read. If you guys are really interested and are looking for insight on addiction, I highly recommend this book. So let me take you to chapter 25. Novak mentioned how he got kicked off the Pal Peralta team, where he wrote, "My last tour with Pal Peralta was a struggle. The mainstays of Pal Peralta team at the time are Steven Caballero, Danny Wainwright, Charlie Wilkins, Jamie Fortune, Jeff Taylor, Rachman Chung, Jershan Mosley, and Bucky Lasik." Bucky Lasik, who I have not seen for several months. Buck approaches and says, "Brandon, it's been a long time. What have you been doing to yourself? You look like shit." I meet his statement with humorous sarcasm. "Thanks, buddy." But Bucky's face did not change, and I realized he wasn't joking. Mike Vallely was the team manager at the time. We'll learn more about Vallely in a sec, but you should know now that Vallely is straight edge, and he does not have time for that kind of disrespect to pro skating. Mike at first asked Novak if he is alright, and mentions that he'll be keeping an eye on him. And he was right to feel that way, since Novak was popping pills and still using. And it was clearly shown at the very first demo of the tour. Novak winded up barfing in front of a group of fans on the course. This was accompanied with disgust and disapproval with his peers. Humiliated, Novak sat the remainder of the event, lying about being food poisoned. However, Vallely knew it was a lie. These kids who come to our demos aren't blind, and they aren't stupid. They can tell you're on drugs, and they can spot you sneaking off to get high. Like it or not, we're role models to these kids. I know you don't care about that, but I won't let you set a bad example for them while you're a part of this team. My team. Understand? As long as you have drugs on you, this tour is in jeopardy. Mike Vallely would eventually point to a sewer drain and give Novak an option. Either to get high, or to follow his dream and be a pro skater. Unfortunately, we all knew what Novak's choice was. You're right, Mike. Fuck. I don't need this shit. I'm not even into drugs anyway. I only had this stuff because some fan gave it to me. I'm sure you guys could catch the obvious lie here. Novak's been known for that. He's been in and out of rehab about 13 times, and he's sort of developed a negative reputation of lying and stealing to sort of get to his end goal, which is to get high. And this will affect Bam. But let's talk about how Bam and Novak started talking again. So Bam would reach out to Novak to respark his friendship and for him to be featured in CKY3. So how did Novak get into CKY3? Bam would reach out to Novak to respark his friendship. Novak was about 23 at the time when he got a call from Bam.
Hello? Brandon Novak. Who's this? It's Bam. Long time no see. Bam? Yep, I saw Bucky the other day and we got to talking, and I asked, whatever happened to Novak? Cool, what's going on? Well, for one, I hear you're addicted to heroin. Well, not anymore. I'm 60 days clean now. Other than that, everything's going great. You still skate at all? Yeah, from time to time. Since I'm clean, I've been skating more and more. Cool, well, I'm making CKY3 right now. You feel like coming by to make a cameo? I have a skate ramp in my backyard of my parents' new house. You should come by for a couple days and lay the hammer down. I have a new house, you can stay there with me. It'll be just like old times.
When Bam picked me up from Westchester bus station, we hadn't seen each other for years, but the moment we made eye contact, I knew the bond we had shared as kids still remained. Strangely, although he was on the verge of worldwide fame, he felt an allegiance to me because I was one of his friends he had prior to making it big. Even more strangely, he felt that he owed me. When we were younger, my presence had challenged him to be his best. I was the most popular skater. I was in the magazine. I was on the Pal Peralta team. In his mind, he felt that I was the one who should have been famous, not him. As a result, he felt the need to help me set my life straight. So Novak would spend a few days at Bam's house filming the segments for CKY3, being featured in a bit titled Storming the Castle, a quick few second scene that feels like it took a little bit longer to set up than the actual payoff. At the time, Bam also had a 7-foot-high backyard mini-ramp, as we would see showcased throughout the film, including the segments featuring Novak's rusty skating talent. Honestly, Novak's story is inspiring and insightful towards the psychology of junkies. However, back then, I will remind you guys, Novak was a POS.
Because I knew I could.
I would get him out of rehab, get home, no sooner than we were home, he'd be right out on the front street making another drug deal.
I knew I could manipulate her. She was an easy scam.
Not an exaggeration either. Novak even admits this himself.
I had the whole back bedroom full of Christmas gifts wrapped up for my grandchildren. Stole every single Christmas present out of the house.
Bam had no idea what he was getting into. Westchester was a small college town. Heroin addiction was not a common interaction for Bam. In a sense, Bam felt guilty about what happened to Novak. He looked up to Novak as a kid, which is why Bam wanted to help him. Joe Franz was a lot more reluctant though. Franz had experience with junkies and had no trust in Novak whatsoever. That's where we'll leave the topic for now. 1-800-COLLECT-CALL is a skit based on the 1-800-COLLECT ad campaign during the 90s. During this, Dunn would attempt to make a collect call. Bam would walk up to him and then clock Dunn in the head, mentioning his mistake. Dunn didn't know that he could save $1 by dialing 1-800-COLLECT. My favorite part of this had to probably be Dico. He kind of like played this business guy who was on the phone.
You know how much you can save? I saved a small fortune. Oh, you're ridiculous. Yeah, I did. I totally did.
Bam would then call his buddy Loomis and claim that Dunn was talking shit. Loomis comes, pushes Dunn into the bushes, and starts headbanging while his buddy beats the shit out of him. Bam insults Loomis for his tight-ass pants and then walks away. CKY would not be complete without shopping cart stunts. According to Novak, Bam called these shopping cart slams. Joe Franz's influence is noticeable during this, not only for his 16mm camera, but also for the variety of filters that he used throughout production. This featured stunts done by Dunn, Novak, Maldonado, Jess, Bam, Rake, and Raab, who actually took the most bumps out of all. He not only dislocated his shoulder and snapped his tailbone, but he also got arrested in nothing but his jockstrap. Jess also took a noticeably heavy bump at the end of the bit, which resulted in Dico laughing his ass off.
And that old motherfucker goes, was there somebody in that? like we got it. He had that huge camera to push nothing.
Rakeon's picnic showcased Dunn's impression of Rake. For the entire bit, Dico would dub over Rake's gestures as he tries to impress Jen. Rake does this by pulling out a guitar out of the picnic basket and starts jamming. Rake's attempt to score does get sabotaged with the presence of a bird character who I think might be Dunn? I'm not sure. Rake gets eggs dropped on him, and he retaliates by pulling out a bow and shooting the bird in the ass, which then resulted in the bird retaliating back by dropping a glob of pudding that is, was supposed to resemble so, resulting in Jen to run away in disgust. Rake was left defeated in a mess of bird poo.
I had to go back to work after that.
Oh.
That was like, I left on my lunch hour because they're like,
oh, yeah.
It'll be super quick, blah, blah, blah. I had to go back to work.
Yeah,
And
I remember
just
that.
started working for this dude. And Imagine like your first day or two on the job and you're meeting your new employee.
Yeah.
And then he just got shit on by a giant fucking
pterodactyl,
unwashed
whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was still frosting and like egg and shit in my hair. I'm like, oh, hi, you know what I mean?
Hey.
Get back to work here, like 2:30. Got a lot of reactions to run.
Yeah.
It's like, is that raw egg?
Yeah.
Like, he didn't say anything, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I think I would try to use some solvent to get that shit out of my hair.
The skate footage is on par with the rest of the CKY films. Mike Maldonado probably stole the show for me out of all of them. But then again, I don't really know anything about skating, so. However, we also got cameos with the likes of Carrie Getz, Novak, Ardo Sari, and Tosh Townsend. We do get a variety of clips from when Bam also had blonde hair, which I learned on the Jackass Volume 1 commentary. Bam was actually inspired by Eminem for this cut. During the skating segment, there was a quick 2-second of text that stated, "This sentence has been placed here for no fucking reason." Therefore, I felt it was only right that I do the same. One of my favorite moments, okay, is when Ryan enters the public restroom. There's one guy already at the urinal, right? And then another guy comes in to look at the mirror. Dunn basically pisses like Butters from South Park, with his pants and underwear pulled all the way down. Ryan then states,
"There are fucking no girls up there."
Looks appalled at Dunn, and he just walks out. I can't talk about the Along Comes Mary by the Bloodhound Gang segment, where Dunn and Raab were roller skating like brothers, but only closer. I'm sure some of you know which one I'm talking about. Dunn does break his wrist during this, after he tumbles, but following it plays another set of skate and stunt footage. One worth mentioning is Bam climbing on top of a moving train and gaps from one cart to another, and I thought that was nuts, dude. So Stuff Dummy makes its return in CKY3. So you could guess how I feel about this. Bam and Deco throw a fake dummy in front of a moving vehicle, the vehicle slams on its brakes, and Deco books it. Bam then stays to confront the guy who was driving. Bam denies it was him and puts the blame on the guy who ran.
Funny, dude. No, I know, but I mean, it's just... No, you know, well, why'd you do it? He thought it would be funny. What if the car come down and get no fucking accident? Well, it's just newspapers. It wouldn't hurt anything. It's just like... It doesn't fucking matter, dude.
Regardless if it's fake, it's still a messed up idea to include in this. Keeping something like this on a film glorifies and inspires copycats to do the same prank. I don't want to be uptight about it, but it's just too dangerous for a one-sided joke like this. However, its shocking nature was entertaining, especially the first time I watched it. Bam obviously wanted CKY to go against the status quo of media of today. By today, I mean 2001. This could even extend to recording a full-on fist fight of fellow skater Mike Vallely. So let's talk about Mike Vallely versus 4 random jocks.
Scene 1, take 3. Hello, my name is Tony Hawk. I am a professional skateboarder, and this is the Gigantic Skatepark Tour 2001, global style.
September of 2001, Bam would make his second appearance on Tony Hawk's Gigantic Skatepark Tour, being documented once again on ESPN. I think Bam embraced his Jackass persona much more during this.
I'm on this tour to ride a skateboard and to do Jackass!
It's like there's quite this energy shift from the previous year. Bam mentioned that he would occasionally be told by strangers to quote-unquote do Jackass. He didn't really know what that meant.
No, I don't really know what that means. Do Jackass! Is this doing Jackass? You know, like... days where I spend all day faxing things, you know? Like, so when I get to skate, I'm really psyched. For the Tony Hawk Tour, I'm gonna make sure I skate as much as I possibly can.
Also who was present on the tour was Mike Vallely. And guys, I gotta be honest with you, man. I've been living a lie all my life. Like, alright, so Mike V's name is pronounced Vallely, right? All my fucking life, I've said Vallely. I've messed up my lines already. I had to redo some of them. I don't know, man. I think there's just some sort of Mandela effect because it was mentioned immediately during the 9 Club interview with Mike Vallely. Fuck.
What would you have done to me if I called you Vallely?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Okay. I have to sometimes reference myself as Vallely. Or someone wouldn't know what I'm talking about.
Right. But I'm sure you get that a lot. I'm sure that name. It's weird because it doesn't, when you look at it on paper, I think it's just because of the double L and the one L. It's I don't know.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I guess. I don't know. It's been tripping people up for a long time, but it's not something I get hung up about.
You don't care?
No, I don't care.
So Mike V doesn't care how you say it, so I don't know, I don't think it matters. Well, either way, 2003 would be the release of the documentary Mike V's Greatest Hits, a documentary of Mike Vallely's history of physical confrontations. It also dips into his brief hardcore wrestling career that he did. With that being said, Vallely isn't really an aggressive person. He's actually relatively passive. But he's not afraid to stand up for injustice against skateboarders, as he did during the Tony Hawk Tour. On June 1st, 2001, while touring in Seattle, the group's bus driver was getting harassed by a few punks. They were basically trying to pick a fight by talking trash about skaters. For some reason, they criticized them for drinking water and milk, I guess?
I'm walking out of this 7-Eleven. I got a bottle of water in my hands. It was a Jeep. It was these guys. They were talking smack to Mike V, who's coming out like skateboarders. They were just dumb, drunk jocks.
And it was clear these guys were instigating.
Yeah, we're gonna kick your ass. We're gonna kick your ass. We're gonna kick his ass. We're gonna kick his ass. We're gonna kick all three of your asses. I go, that's funny, because I could take all four of you myself.
Then Bam began to film. While Bring Your Whole Crew by DMX plays, Vallely swings hands and asserts his dominance, ramming into these dudes straight up. He took on all four, which I mean 3 of which did back off immediately, but 1 did fight back, and he got taken down, and they both were ready for round 2, only to eventually be broken up.
And Bam is standing there with his video camera in his hand, and he goes, I got it. I got the whole thing on tape. Like, I fucking got it, I got it. I'm like, no, it's an imitation of you.
Mike Vallely made a huge point at the end of the documentary. He was never proud of getting into fights whatsoever. He also tries to deter people from watching CKY or Jackass. But here he is in CKY3.
It's almost 2 years ago now, and I don't really see myself ever having to get into anything like that ever again. I don't have the heart for it. I don't have the stomach for it. Yeah, it was 4 frat boy kooks, and they didn't have a chance against me. But what if they had a gun? What if they had a knife? What if one of my blows connected? What if I hurt one of those guys, man? What if I put one of those guys down for real? I'd have to live with that. And what are the repercussions of that? Who knows, man? Jail time? Like, you know, what's the reality of getting physical with anybody? It's only gonna go someplace bad.
And as hyped in the moment Bam was, it was a huge mistake, as the 4 would sue Bam and Vallely in 2005. The claims against the defendants were battery, invasion of privacy, outrage, and negligent infliction of emotional distress. I'm not gonna go into the entire suit because I'm not a lawyer and we gotta move this project on, but I'm gonna let you guys know that it was settled out of court in 2006 for an undisclosed amount.
Slouzbry stouvre for keykey.
It was a surprisingly popular bit, where Raab and Bam talk in a very kind of obnoxious yet comical voice and tries to feed meat to Keykey, real name is Whiskers. This was a bit where Raab and Bam were up late into the night laughing their asses off while they were editing it. CKY3 would also be the debut of Raab's himself nickname. In a Fact or Fiction Loudwire interview, Raab mentioned he got his name from Chris Aspatay. Aspatay would dub both Raab and Ryan with the himself nickname.
He was Hoofpatay, the dude with the the duct tape around his hands.
Right.
And Aspatay would be like, oh, there he is, like Raab himself, live in person. Like, what are you gracing us with your presence? Like, he was acting like, you know, like, oh, you're some big celebrity now that CKY2 came out, and he was actually doing it to Ryan as well, and being like, there he is, Dunn himself.
Shit Dollar was a bit inspired by a cut Jackass skit called Poodollar, where the crew coated a dollar in chocolate icing and manure. They then leave it sitting out on the floor for a potential victim to pick it up. The prank worked, and it left a man gagging in the bushes. While trying to get him to sign a release form, the dude was fuming and demanded a $100 payout. Well, I mean, he probably deserves it, but...
Have you ever seen a dollar just blowing in the breeze, carrying along in the wind? I'm sure you have. But did you pick it up? Yeah, you did. Well, pick it up today, I dare you, because look what it is coated with.
The Jackass Too Hot for TV version had a similar result. For this one, Deco and Bam would confront the person as if they won a contest.
Congratulations, ma'am. How do you feel? You've just found the lucky manure dollar.
Here,
Coated
you
with
can have it
prep.
back.
Oh no, it's all yours. Today is a glorious day for you. How do you feel?
Not too good.
Not too well. Hey, you can wash it off, and it is currency. How do you feel though? Really, deep down, is it like Christmas almost?
My favorite Bam line had to have been,
Are you gonna buy a lot of shit with that dollar?
Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, Chris Raab, specifically in the jockstrap skin, was the real MVP in CKY3, and his feature in the finale proved it. The finale of CKY was in reference to George Carlin's 1990 comedy special, Doing It Again.
I know things you never see. You never see someone taking a shit while running at full speed.
According to Raab on episode 19 of his own podcast, the bit was Jess's idea after the two watched the comedy special together.
Speed, and I still remember you being like, hey Raab, would you do that? And I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Like, it's something that George has never seen. Let's make it something that he's seen.
Yeah. And dude, and that was one of the coolest things is he actually found out about it.
Oh yeah.
And that was like,
and
damn.
if he was a dick, the move would have been like cease and desist on the footage because we use a clip of him.
Yeah.
But he was like, oh dude, that's amazing. Like, I'm so stoked you guys actually did that.
Yeah.
It was also mentioned that Phil and Ape took Bam and Jess to see Carlin live, a gesture that resulted in some judgmental stares from opposing parents, and actually an insane amount of jealousy from me. Chris Raab was going to prove Carlin wrong. With the help of 18 laxatives and the track Rock Lobster, Raab was ready for this bit, and after taking the laxatives, nothing happened. Until Raab took one sip of coffee. Then the moment finally arrived. He urged them to immediately grab the camera because it's now or never, resulting in this masterpiece that you can't see due to guidelines. Oh, I'm sorry guys. In conclusion, CKY3 is the perfect pair to the Jackass binge. We not only get the appearances of Knoxville and Pontius, but we also get B footage from segments like Bam's kicking his dad's ass all day, Party Boy, the Tony Hawk Tour, and even Jackass Too Hot for TV. And let's not forget the moment when Bam peed on his dad, Phil, and used April's line, "Pee on your dad," as a transition to a hit music video. CKY3 lived up to Bam's expectations. For 47 minutes, it's packed with slice-of-life content. While CKY1 and 2 were more of a collaboration of older footage from Bam's high school year, CKY3 was mostly a collection of Bam's footage after the sudden increase of wealth, which will only increase going forward from here. I personally stand with CKY2K being my favorite at this point, and the one thing for that is because CKY3 lacked any bonus footage. Both CKY1 and 2 feature some bonus footage at the end of the tape. I also think that CKY3 felt rather recycled as far as the concepts and stunts that they did, like shopping cart slams, the dummy scene, skating, some of the skating highlights, and Bam jumping off of high places. However, that's just me nitpicking. The tape all in all is as good as the first two, so do not sleep on this. Before we go, let's talk about October 2001. This was the release of Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3. Pro Skater 3 was an important installment for including both CKY3's 96 Bitter Beings and Bam Margera as a playable character. So Bam's stats are average in the game, with skill points put into rail balance, ollie, speed, and switch. His special tricks include the 540 tail whip, the Jackass, the human dart, and the Russian boneless. Beating career mode on Bam unlocks his secret tape. Bam's tape has really nothing new except for some skating footage with a Super 8 video camera, where Bam states,
"Somebody hands me a Super 8 video camera, of course I'm gonna, go nuts with it, so I'm running all over the place just filming people's faces, and like this one random guy just comes up and he's like, that's very rude what you did," and like I was just in a goofy mood, so I pulled the camera back out and start filming him again. So he tries to punch me, but he ends up punching the camera, and it wasn't my camera, so I don't care.
CKY would also have 96 Bitter Beings featured in the behind the scenes clips. The clip actually featured the developers doing shopping cart slams, being a tribute to the CKY movies. This exposure was great for both CKY and Bam Margera going into 2002. But that's it for now. Next part will be the last in the first act of the Bam project. I'm really excited because I would love a break on this project. 2002 would be when Bam's success would hit the big screen in Jackass the movie, and we're also going to talk about CKY4. I'll explain the confusion on that later. But speaking of, later guys. That was stupid.